Hello guys, so I had this game against ZAID on Kangen Madness recently, 2 days ago, and it was an interesting game because he moved around the map and set up a defensive position sort of to my side. So he actually moved from his half. I spawned south, he spawned north. He got his scrap from the west and from the east, and he came all the way around, really close to me. He wrapped around the side of my base with his recycler and everything, and then he deployed in the southeast corner, and I was on the south mid-hill. This was an interesting situation because he, rather than fighting across mid, he relocated all the way around to the side and kind of threatened me from the side position. So I went ahead and recreated his setup so you can see what he had. He had these three houses that were in range of nearly to my base, and I couldn't hit his. So he had the height advantage on the houses, and he had gun towers on the side entrances. He had a complete army of 10 offensives. He had a load of scavengers and he had all 3 production units. So he was in a good, strong spot, and I couldn't really engage directly. It'd be a bit too risky. Even with those gun towers on the side, it'd be a bit too much. And I was on this mid hill here, this south hill. So that was his setup, that's what he had. So a strong position there. Now my initial plan was actually to send a strike force around the back, composing of 2 bombers and a dual SP tank. And I did this obviously with satellite, so I used sat to place 1 nav far to the north, outside of his 1000 meter factory range. This is so I could have them in place, away from my base, and so he wouldn't be able to see them on radar. I then placed 2 navs sort of on the north entrances to his base, so I can then path the units over. Now the problem with, if I was not to do this, if I just had them placed north and then sent into attack with satellite, like targeted the gun tower, it may happen that they end up pathing round into the front and attacking from the front, which would obviously defeat the purpose of a side attack. So I'd have these navs placed at the side so I can do that, and obviously I target with sat. His recycler was close enough to me that I could target it myself, but the gun tower was at the other side of his base, so I'd need to really quickly jump into satellite, target it, and then send the units on that. I had those units in an F group. I had them in F2, so I can just select F2, 2 bombers and tank, and I can easily send those in the back. And as they would go in, I would attack from the front with the bulk of my forces to go for like a 2-pronged attack. And the main sort of benefit of this is it causes enough chaos in his base where he has to address 2 fights at the same time, because the F2 group would be enough to take out his gun tower, and they would then get a free path onto his factory or recycler. So he has to deal with that at the same time as I go in the front and I deal with whatever he's got there. So that was a decent setup there. But actually I changed my mind in the end, and the reason why I changed my mind is because I knew that ZAID would have his complete 10 offensive, and I didn't want to lose the fight on the ramp up to his base. So I brought my units back, I brought those 3 back, and I attacked with a complete 10, just because I felt like it'd be better for me to bring all my units into one force and to control that force than to trust the AI to get in there. Because if that failed, then I'd be giving him scrap for free. So the main objective of the situation, what I needed to do to kind of bring things in my favour, was I had to take the area below, between our bases, between the 2 slopes, kind of like a no man's land area. If I could take this position, my houses would be in range to hit his base, because from my base they couldn't reach, and his houses were covering the hill above. So what I needed to do was to get into this lower area between the 2 slopes. From there I could actually threaten his recycler in his base for real. Okay, so putting the plan into motion, the first thing I did is I took howitzers and I brought them down out of the top side of my base, the front entrance, and I brought them around the side here to these geysers. I placed them there, and I would then target his howitzers. And the reason for this is that from his perspective, it's like he's dealing with 2 fights. There's howitzers firing from below by the geysers, and then he's got me on the ramp just further south. I place a silo so my scavengers can recover from the houses that are destroyed in the event that he's quick to react. He sends comets at me, so this is something that one of the tactics he was using is to sort of chuck comets at me. This is good because it keeps me there. I have to be at my base to deal with it. The AI does not attack comets, so you need to be doing it yourself. So that was a decent move from him, but I was always taking it out. Thing is with a comet is it does destroy a gun tower, but it's not really done too much. I'm still there. But so I had to be aware of that, and that was fine. So the houses came in and they began to hit his houses. And then this creates a window of opportunity. This creates a moment in time where I'm free to set up on that lower area. Because the reason why I can't just move over now, begin setting up, gun towers and silos, is because of his houses. So I target his now, and I wait. And as soon as they go down, the window of opportunity is here. The opportunity for me to move forward is now ready. So I go into this no man's land area, just down here, this middle area. Bringing my offensives with me, my constructor with me. I see that his recycler is pretty close, he's got it on the front geyser. So now I'm moving my houses forward. I'll place a gun tower, just to establish some zone of control. And I'm just waiting for him to do the counter push. Because what I'm doing now is I'm moving into like a threatening position now with my houses on his recycler. Now two of them are in range, 2 houses are in range, but the rest are still arriving, so I'm going to keep checking my maps or micromanaging the houses and bringing forward the ones that are lagging behind so I can get them all on the recycler. Mine layer there just because it's a decent sort of territorial unit, places the mines do considerable damage if anything comes towards me. And this is only possible because I timed the window of opportunity. I took out his houses and that gave me a window to do this. It gives me a few minutes of time to set this up. This is the engagement now. He didn't need to commit to this. He could simply move his recycler back, undeploy it and move it out of range of the houses, but he chose to take this fight. And all I have to do is just remain steadfast, and it's mine. So the gun tower is doing serious work. And this really now, what's happening here is it's just kind of AI control is not the greatest. This is kind of a death trap. I knew his turrets were upgraded, so I prioritized them. They're dual SP. I win the fight. It's looking pretty good for me. All the scrap is there. I place a silo preemptively, so this silo and scabs are doing work. His recycler did go down to the howitzer, so he's calling GG there. And then I just bring in my offensives to finish off. There's a gun tower there. Thumper is very good for disabling gun towers. So I send my AI on the gun tower and I just sort of I'm keeping it on me. So I'm staying closer than 200 meters, so the gun tower is targeting me. And my AI is free to go in and to destroy it. Now at this point, the objective is still to take out the factory. Because obviously he can still build units. A silo, scavengers, they're still key things to destroy, because even though he's lost his recycler, he can still get scrap and build. So once I get the factory, he has no way to arm himself. Okay, so at this point now, the game's over. I've pretty much won at this point. And so just to summarize there, the steps I take. Number 1, howitzers in place to destroy his. So a window is created for me to move into that middle area where I am now, that sort of lower area where I can threaten his recycler. Once Howies are destroyed, I move my Howies forward, target his recycler, and I'm creating a threatening situation now, so I'm actively threatening his base. He then pushes forward with his units. I hold the line, I make sure I'm able to win the fight. The gun tower helps out massively there. So sometimes gun towers are useless, sometimes they really help. In that case, they help massively. So essentially what I did, I just created a situation where he needs to act. And I did this by using howitzers. So if you're ever unsure about how a howitzer helps you, it forces opponents to act. It forces them to deal with it. Now he could have just moved his recycler back. He could have undeployed his recycler and pulled it away. But all this does is it prolongs an inevitable defeat because he's given up ground. And my howitzers will now be in range of his gun towers, his powers, eventually his factory. And I can just move up the hill with my tanks. And he has to either stand his ground and fight, or evacuate and relocate. If he relocates, he's temporarily exposed. He's temporarily vulnerable for a time. So really, once I had the push up and he lost his offensives, it was pretty much over. And here he just he misses the tank. He does miss the tank, unfortunately, and loses his last life there.